right. So today we're going to do a deep dive into something kind of different.
Okay.
It's called hatching time.
Hatching time.
You sent this over to me a while back.
Yeah.
Their website. And honestly, at first glance, I was like, okay, this looks like your pretty standard like poultry supply company,
Right.
But I have a feeling there's got to be more to this story than meets the eye.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's way more here than just, chicken feed and a couple waters.
Like what kind of things jumped out at you when you first looked at the site?
I mean, just the range of equipment that they offer is kind of fascinating. They have everything from just really basic starter kits, like for your, backyard hobbyist, to like almost professional grade incubators and brooders.
Huh. That's interesting. So it seems like they're targeting a pretty wide audience then.
Yeah, it really seems like they're casting a wide net.
Yeah.
Maybe appealing to more folks interested in self-sufficiency. Local food production, but also like, serious breeders and maybe even small-scale poultry businesses.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I was clicking around their site, and one of the things that jumped out at me was they were really pushing these comfort plast brooders.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that just like a fancy marketing term, or is there something more to that?
It's more than that.
Okay.
Comfort plast is like this proprietary material that they've developed. It's designed to be easy to clean, very durable.
Oh.
And most importantly, provide the optimal thermal regulation for the chicks.
Oh, so it's not just about like keeping them warm. It's about creating like a comfortable and hygienic environment for them.
Exactly. They claim that it helps reduce stress and promote healthy growth.
I see. So it makes you wonder, if all those little details actually impact like hatch rates.
Right, and that's a really good point because they do highlight their incubator technology quite a bit, with digital controls and features like automatic egg turners, and they even have some pretty impressive customer testimonials about high hatch rates with certain models like the CT180 and the CT60.
You think with all this technology, anybody could just hatch chicks with their eyes closed.
Right.
But, I mean, you and I both know it's not really that simple, is it?
Of course not. Hatching is like a complex biological process, factors like egg fertility, even just the genetics of the breed can play a big role.
Oh, yeah.
Technology can definitely help create those ideal conditions.
True.
But there's always going to be that element of unpredictability.
And speaking of unpredictable, I got to say something I never expected to see on a poultry supply website was quail cages.
Yeah.
Like, are people really raising quail at home now?
It's becoming way more popular, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, quail are relatively small. They're pretty quiet, which makes them great for urban environments.
Oh, okay.
And their eggs are considered a delicacy.
Interesting. So it seems like hatching time is really tapping into this niche market, too.
Exactly. They offer specialized cages just for quail breeding and egg production, and they even have detailed blog posts
Oh, wow.
on quail genetics and care.
Speaking of their blog, I took a quick look, and it is jam-packed with information.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from choosing the right feather plucker, who knew there were so many options,
Right.
to tips on starting a small-scale egg business. Like, they're really going above and beyond just selling equipment.
They really are. It's like they're building this whole knowledge base around poultry raising.
Uh-huh.
Almost trying to create a community of these informed and empowered poultry enthusiasts.
And judging by the customer testimonials I've seen, they're doing a pretty good job of it. People are raving about the quality of their products, the ease of use, their overall hatching success.
Awesome.
I even saw one person mention that they were hatching goose eggs.
Goose eggs?
Goose eggs.
Wow.
It's clear they're tapping into something beyond just like the practical aspects of poultry raising. You know, these testimonials really suggest that people are finding a sense of satisfaction, maybe even like a connection to a more traditional way of life through these products and the knowledge that hatching time provides.
That's a great point. It's like they're providing a gateway to this whole world that a lot of people never knew existed.
Right.
And they're doing it with this really cool blend of modern technology and like old school know-how.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to put it. It's like they're bridging the gap between the modern desire for convenience and efficiency with this like age-old tradition of raising animals for food.
Exactly.
And it makes me wonder, is this just a niche hobby, or are they tapping into something much larger, a cultural shift even?
I mean, are we seeing a return to more traditional values, a desire for greater self-sufficiency, or is it just the allure of fresh eggs?
Right.
It's a lot to unpack, but definitely worth exploring.
Okay, so we've covered their products, their technology, their community building efforts. But what about Hatching Time as a company? What's their story?
That's where things get really interesting. Their About Us section reveals some fascinating details about their history and philosophy.
Okay, so let's take a closer look at what they have to say for themselves.
Sounds good. I gotta say, their About Us page is surprisingly detailed.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
You get a real sense of, like, the people behind the company.
Yeah, they talk a lot about, their family-founded roots, but then in the next breath, they're talking about egg tech innovation.
Yeah.
It's an interesting juxtaposition.
It is, and it seems to be working for them.
Yeah.
They've really managed to combine these traditional values of farming with this really forward-thinking approach to technology.
Hmm.
They even have this brand new storefront in Delaware,
Oh, really?
which they describe as like a hub for the poultry raising community.
A storefront that's interesting. You don't usually see that with these online retailers these days, especially in like this niche market.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold move, but I think it really speaks to their commitment to building this like real community around their brand. They're offering workshops and classes and expert advice. It's like a one-stop shop for all things poultry.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. They're not just selling equipment, they're selling a lifestyle.
Yeah.
They're providing the tools, the knowledge, even a physical space for people to connect and really share their passion for poultry raising.
And that passion really shines through in those blog posts. They go into so much detail about things like quail genetics, the differences between all these different feather pluckers. It's clear they have a deep understanding of what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to anticipate every single question that a new poultry enthusiast might have.
Right.
And they're providing those answers in a way that's both informative and engaging.
Which brings us back to that question we were asking earlier. Is this just like a niche hobby?
Right.
Or are they tapping into something bigger, like a cultural shift?
Yeah, and they're clearly riding this wave of, growing interest in local food production and self-sufficiency. But I think it goes even deeper than that.
Oh, definitely. I think there's a sense of nostalgia at play here.
Mm-hmm.
This like longing for a simpler time when people were more connected to the land and the food they ate.
Yeah, it's like a rejection of this mass-produced industrialized food system,
Yeah.
People are yearning for something more authentic, a more hands-on approach to their food.
And Hatching Time is providing this really tangible way for people to reconnect with those traditional values. They're making it, accessible and even, dare I say, fashionable to raise your own chickens or quail in your backyard.
All this talk about Hatching Time and their approach has got me thinking about, their impact on the larger poultry industry.
What do you mean?
Well, they're clearly catering to this growing market, but they're also raising the bar in terms of animal welfare and sustainability.
That's a really good point. They talk a lot about using eco-friendly materials in their products and promoting responsible breeding practices. They even have a blog post about the ethics of chick culling, which is not something you see every day.
It seems like they're really trying to change the conversation around poultry raising, moving away from those factory farming practices towards something more humane and sustainable.
Yeah, and that could have ripple effects throughout the entire industry, If more people start demanding ethically sourced poultry products, the big players might actually be forced to adapt.
So Hatching Time isn't just about selling, chicken coops and incubators.
Yeah.
They're potentially driving this shift in consumer consciousness.
Yeah, it's a really interesting example of how a small company driven by a clear vision and a passion for what they do can really influence a much larger system.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about Hatching Time, their products, their philosophy, even their potential impact on the industry.
But
what does this all mean for the average person listening to this?
right.
Like, is this something that you or I could realistically incorporate into our lives?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is this a viable path towards a more fulfilling, more sustainable lifestyle, or is it just some kind of romanticized ideal? That's what we need to explore in this final segment.
Okay, so, we've explored Hatching Time really from every angle we've seen. Their commitment to quality, the community they're there. They're building their whole vision for a more sustainable poultry industry.
Yeah, we really have.
But, the big question for me, at least, is this something that the average person can actually do?
I think that's a really valid question.
Yeah.
Raising poultry, even on a small scale, it does take time. It takes space, and it takes a certain level of commitment.
Yeah, it's not like buying a houseplant. You're dealing with, living creatures that have needs.
Exactly.
You know,
You need to be able to provide adequate shelter, food, water.
of course.
And of course, be prepared to handle the less glamorous aspects of it,
Yeah,
like cleaning those coops and dealing with the occasional, health issue.
right. And I imagine there's, local regulations to consider too. You can't just start a chicken farm in your suburban backyard
Oh, for sure.
without, checking with the HOA.
Yeah. Zoning laws, noise ordinances, even predator concerns,
Yeah.
those can all play a role in determining, whether or not raising poultry is even feasible for you.
So it's not as simple as just, hopping on hatching time, buying a coop, a few chicks, and calling it a day.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Definitely not a decision to be taken lightly.
But for those who were willing to put in the time and the effort,
Mm-hmm.
the rewards could be significant.
I think so.
I mean, we've heard about, fresh eggs, the connection to nature,
Mhm.
that satisfaction of raising your own food. But I mean, are there other benefits that we haven't even considered?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's the educational aspect. It's an amazing way for kids to learn about, animal care biology, the whole food cycle.
Yeah, I bet it also teaches some valuable life skills,
Yeah.
like responsibility and problem solving.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the potential therapeutic benefits,
Yeah.
Caring for animals can be incredibly calming and rewarding.
Right.
I mean, there's even this whole growing field of animal-assisted therapy that uses chickens and other poultry.
Wow. So it sounds like while raising poultry may not be for absolutely everyone,
Mm.
it definitely offers, a range of benefits that go way beyond just, putting food on the table.
Right. It's a very multifaceted experience, and it can really enrich your life in ways you might not expect.
So for those listening who, might be intrigued by all this but aren't quite ready to commit to a full-blown flock,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what would you suggest is a good starting point?
I would say start small.
Yeah.
Maybe try growing some herbs or some vegetables first.
Okay.
Visit a local farm or farmer's market.
Yeah.
Talk to some people who are already raising poultry.
Get a feel for it.
Yeah, get a feel for the commitment involved and just see if it aligns with your lifestyle.
And, you can always just dip your toes in the water by supporting companies like Hatching Time. Even if you're not ready to raise chickens yourself,
Yeah.
you can still appreciate what they're doing, their commitment to quality and sustainability.
Definitely.
And who knows, maybe one day you'll find yourself, browsing their website, adding a chick brooder to your cart,
Yeah.
and embarking on your own poultry raising adventure.
Or maybe you'll just be inspired to, cook a delicious meal with some fresh, locally sourced eggs.
Either way, I think we can all agree that Hatching Time has given us a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's more than just a company selling poultry supplies,
Mm-hmm.
They're really offering a vision of a more connected, sustainable and fulfilling way of life.
Yeah, and that's a vision worth exploring whether or not you ever end up with, a coop in your backyard.
Well said.
Hmm.
Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of Hatching Time.
It was my pleasure.
It's been a really enlightening journey, and I hope our listeners have found it equally insightful.
I hope so.
So until next time, keep those minds curious and those questions coming. And maybe we'll see you at the coop someday.